Hello everybody, welcome back to another brand new episode of Decoding the Unknown. I mean, unless you're listening or watching this in the future, in that case it's not brand new, is it? I don't know why I even say this. It's the truth about pyramids in Antarctica, written by you, also read by me, your wonderful host, a wonderful writer. I think this one is from, was it like a satellite picture? And some dude was like, oh my god, there's like an ice Jarell's super cave or whatever is there. Look, there's an ice fortress in the shape of a pyramid. And it was just like, I think it just turns out to be just like, you know, just ice, just nothing, just kind of looked a bit pyramid-y from space. Today, we are traveling as far south as we can to the icy continent of Antarctica, a land of extremes. Around 98% of the continent, that's around 5 million square miles or 8 million square kilometers. That's massive. Is covered by ice sheets, some up to 3 miles or 4.8 kilometers deep. Jesus Christ. I honestly did not realize that ice sheets could be that thick. You kind of see them in, and I mean, I know there's that classic image of the iceberg and then it's much bigger underneath or whatever, but it's not in 3 miles deep, is it? On an average day, you can expect a balmy temperature of minus 45 degrees Celsius, which is about the same in Fahrenheit, with a brisk breeze gusting up to 100 miles per hour. It's like minus 45 Celsius feels like minus 100. It's not exactly an ideal holiday destination unless you're a penguin, but if you're looking for a quiet neighborhood, you can't do much better. Don't know if it's particularly quiet with that 100-mile-an-hour wind. With about 66 research stations, only of which 37 are in use all year, dotting the continent, you're looking at sharing your icy abode with only about 4,000 people, spread out over a continent about 1.5 times bigger than the United States. I told you that was a lot of square miles during the peak summer months. So if you don't like queues and traffic, you don't mind ancient or extraterrestrial neighbors, hello, with some strange ideas when it comes to architecture, and you're not a Disney princess unbothered by the cold, no, like the snow or anyway, or whatever it is. I can't believe I don't know that yet, despite my daughter's absolute obsession with Frozen. I don't get it. I still don't know what happens in Frozen. I've watched it so many times, but I always just phase the fuck out. I'm just watching it and I'm like, just thinking about other shit. And I just don't know what it's about. And it goes on and I'm like, and my daughter's like, oh, what about this? And I'm like, yes. Just not following Frozen. It's a children's movie. Today's episode brought to you by the legends over at Surfshark. Your internet activity, it ain't as private as you think, I'll tell you that. And I don't like that. I don't like the fact that my ISP that advertise, you get creepy ads, dude. Like sometimes it's just like so on the nose, or it's like, oh my god, I looked at their website like 6 months ago. How do you know that I still might want that thing that I'm now being pressured to buy? And I don't really want to, but I will, because advertising works. Even if you don't think it does, it works. But I keep my data private. I keep my browsing private with Surfshark VPN. With Surfshark, you browse safely on public Wi-Fi. You can bypass geo restrictions. That's one of the best things. You can like get all of those other Netflix libraries and stuff. You just fire it up, go over. For me, I'm often like, yeah, American Netflix, because it's got a giant ass library. If you're in America, just hop on over to a European country, because we got loads of other stuff. What was it? Was it Star Trek Discovery? Was on like Netflix in Europe, but in America you had to be subscribed to like Paramount Plus or something. So use one of those websites where it tells you which platform it's streamed. There's these great websites. I can't remember what it's called. Just Google it and you'll find it. And it tells you which shows are on which different Netflixes. So then get Surfshark, find out where that show is, where it's available, which country on Netflix, fire it up to that country, close Netflix, open it again. Boom! Easy. Show. Saved you some money. And spend that money on Surfshark. It's also extremely cheap. I don't know the exact price because the call to action today is get 4 extra months for free. But it's a really good deal. It's really not expensive. Go to surfshark.com/DTU, surfshark.com/DTU. You get those 4 extra months for free. It's just worth doing. It's just really good. That's it. Back to today's episode. Antarctica isn't just a continent of extreme temperatures. It's also a conspiracy theorist's dream. The stories coming in from the shores of the icy continent will either terrify or delight you, depending on your taste in fiction. Fiction. Eyewitness accounts of alien craft zipping about the icy desert. World governments secretly working with extraterrestrial invaders to recover alien tech and working with the aliens themselves to direct the course of world affairs, placing immense power in the hands of an elite few. And of course, the reason we're all here today, pyramids. Antarctica's got it all. People are going to be... I guarantee you there are comments, probably not near the top because, hello everybody who watches this channel, you sensible big brains. There's going to be people being like, oh yeah, Simon, sure, you would say that. You're part of the machine. I realized like conspiracy theories and like media manipulation and like this isn't real, because when I became a media person, no one's like offering me a huge bag to toe their party line. I mean, companies sponsor me. I mean, speaking of companies, why not get some gamersubs at gamersubs.gg/unknown? It's delicious and it's caffeinated. These companies give me money, but the CIA hasn't come along and be like, hey, whistle boy, how about you toe the party line? Or we'll extract your fingernails and we'll give you some money. Just hasn't happened, very disappointingly. I'd absolutely toe that CIA's line as long as they don't remove my fingernails and pay me. A pyramid in the icy desert. When we hear the word pyramid, the first image that comes to mind for most people is... Elsa says, is the Great Pyramids of Giza, but I really, really wish that sentence had been, when we hear the word pyramid, the first image that comes to mind for most people is a pyramid. Rising majestically from the golden desert sands. However, pyramids are found all over the world. Mesoamerica, Mesopotamia, Sudan, Indonesia, even Rome. Really? Where ancient cultures flourished, pyramids were as inevitable as death and taxes. There's still a lot of mystery surrounding pyramids, how they were built, why they were built, is there any significance to where exactly they were built, and why a pyramid, why not a square or a circle? In fact, pretty much the only thing we do know is that no matter where they are found, be it in Egypt or Antarctica, pyramid building is definitely a marvel of ancient engineering. This is a really stupid example, but my kids have Duplo. Well, they had Duplo. Now they've graduated to Lego, but they used to play with Duplo. And I used to play with this as well. I'll just be like making stuff. The number of times I just default to making a pyramid was really high. Is there some... I feel like, making the steps and stuff and then gradually bringing it up to a peak. I feel like that's just a natural shape that is quite easy and also cool looking for humans to make. Like, I couldn't really make a circle with Duplo. I couldn't really make like a sphere. I mean, unless it was getting absolutely massive. So I feel like pyramids is kind of like it feels like a default construction shape for men and women. I meant to say man, like as in humanity, but I said men, and then that sounded sexist, and then I said women, which felt like an unnecessary clarification because everyone probably got what I meant. Anyway, moving on, in 2016, stories of pyramids in Antarctica took the world by storm. I was at an open day for a school today. Sorry, little tangent. And the teacher, or the person who's showing us around, we go into a class, and they're like, oh, so what are your kids into? And I'm like, my kids are so, I've never pushed them towards one or the other, but it's like, my daughter likes unicorns and princesses, and my son likes trucks. It's just, it's kind of like, I feel like we live in this new enlightened world where anyone can do whatever they want. And it's like, nah, my son likes trucks that go broom, broom. And my daughter likes princesses. Because of course they do. Satellite imagery showed a cluster of what appeared to be pyramids in the heritage range of the southern Ellsworth Mountains, first discovered by American aviator Lincoln Ellsworth back in 1935, who either didn't see the pyramid or didn't bother to report it. Because that's probably nothing. Probably nothing. One pyramid in particular looks like it was snatched straight off the Giza Plateau and dropped into the icy waters of Antarctica. But do not worry, I checked. And the pyramids of Giza? Still all accounted for. Oh, thank God, I was very worried for a moment. The resemblance is especially striking when seen from above, which is the angle most Google Earth users have seen it from, since few of us can afford or survive an extended stay in Antarctica. The base of the pyramid appears to be a perfect square, 2 kilometers on each side. Wait, how big's a regular pyramid? With each side lining up perfectly with north, south, east, and west, and the sides of the pyramid seem fairly smooth. The whole construction appears to be far too precise for natural processes and hints at intelligent design. The pyramid stands around 4,150 feet or 1,265 meters tall. Wait, that's... no. I mean... yes, but there's no way people built this back in the day. Isn't the Great Pyramid of Giza 50 meters high or something? That would make our Antarctic pyramid the tallest and quite possibly the oldest pyramid ever discovered. The Great Pyramid at Giza, for comparison, is only 481 feet, or around 147 meters tall. It's way taller than I thought. It's 3 times as tall. But it ain't 1.3 kilometers high, is it? It's not some like Burj Khalifa-sized pyramid. I mean, it is, but it wasn't built by people. That's like looking at Niagara Falls and being like, wow, whoever built that is really impressive. Of course, tales and conspiracies featuring pyramids on the frozen continent are not new. The first pyramid was discovered in Antarctica by the British Antarctic Expedition of 1910 to 1913. Instead of telling the world, they decided to keep the discovery of this pyramid a secret and claimed that it was nothing but a mountain. In order to keep this pyramid under wraps, the expedition named this mountain the Pyramid and used the label The Pyramid on every single geological survey and map of the area. Get the feeling there's some sarcasm going on there, Ilza. Clearly, the world governments of 1910 to 1913 were a little vague on the concept of keeping secrets. However, around 100 years later, people would finally see through this diabolical double bluff and reveal to the world that the pyramid wasn't actually a mountain at all. In around 2012, the tales were revived when several pyramids and pyramid-like structures were spotted by eagle-eyed Google Earth users. However, it's the 2016 discovery that really got the ball rolling again with the discovery of 3 pyramids, including our Giza lookalike. 2 pyramids can be found around 10 miles inland, while the third lies closer to the coast. Apparently, the government, I'm assuming the US government, since they seem to be the culprit of choice in most conspiracy theories. Yeah, it's like, if I'm looking for someone, if I'm telling a, joke about how I take the CIA's money, it's not like I'm defaulting to like GCHQ or MI5. It's always just like, nah, fucking CIA. American government. The big boys. Apparently, they even built a research base near these pyramids in case there's any doubt that these are, in fact, pyramids and not mountains. Strangely, though, considering the enormity of this find and the implications for history and archaeology, details a little bit vague. You see, a pyramid in Antarctica would quite possibly be the most important find in decades and throw a monkey wrench, one of those really big ones, into the works. Everything we think we know about history of human development will need to be reevaluated. As for the conspiracy theorists, well, they're having a field day. Since Antarctica isn't really the first place that comes to mind when we think of the origins of mankind, where do these pyramids come from? Just by the fact that they're so massive, they're nature. It's natural. It's just no one today is bothering, and no one back in the past could. I mean, it's incredible. The Great Pyramid at Giza, wasn't it like the tallest building in the world for like 3,000 years? And then they're like, oh, this one, no, it's 10 times bigger. 10 times bigger. Again, the thing of Niagara Falls. Mysterious pyramid builders. Traditional geologists, have degrees and that sort of things. Idiots in the system and tend to keep themselves busy with scientific research, have long believed that no humans had ever settled on the Antarctic continent. It's much too hostile to support human life. Yeah, there's loads of other nice places where you can live. There's tons of nice temperate zones. You don't need to live on the frozen continent. However, if these pyramids are indeed pyramids, someone built them, suggesting that at some point in the continent's past, someone managed to live there. Not someone, a huge number of people. They're building something 1.3 kilometers high. I don't know how many miles that is. What, like 0.9, 0.8, something like that? There are basically 2 theories to identify the potential builders of the pyramids in Antarctica, and before I continue, I strongly recommend activating your suspend disbelief setting. This is going to be a wild ride. Gonna guess there's aliens in there. Where are the aliens, Ilza? An ancient civilization. Oh, come on, where are the aliens? The first and most obvious suggestion is that the pyramids were built by a lost ancient civilization. The biggest problem with the idea of an ancient civilization settling in the icy desert that is Antarctica is, well, all the bloody ice. The odds that ancient seafarers arrived on its icy shores and managed to survive long enough to build shelter as well as find food with the necessary amount of calories for survival and drinkable water is very slim. Yeah, when I think of Antarctic, it's not like I think of like abundant food sources. Are polar bears in the Antarctica or are they in the Arctic? I think they're in the Arctic, right? What the fuck is in Antarctica? Penguins, maybe? There must be penguins, right? In 2017, researchers drilling for ice core samples in a glacier in West Antarctica discovered over 65 different species of pollen, spores, and other plant life in the layers of ice. I've seen this movie, and we're really lucky that's all they found. Yeah. The movie's like, and they dug up turbo Ebola. They dug up COVID too. However, horror tropes aside, this tells us that Antarctica wasn't always a frozen wasteland. One time, the continent had a much warmer climate. This isn't entirely news, though. The discovery of dinosaur fossils in Antarctica is further testament to the notion that Antarctica was once a lush forest, similar to what New Zealand is today. Yeah, but not since humans have been around. And there's no ancient civilization that was more advanced than us. Pretty damn sure about that, aren't we? Because, of the historical record and bones and fossils and shit. Of course, contrary to what some folks believe, humans and dinosaurs did not coexist, so the presence of dinosaur bones isn't proof of human life. However, some believers argue that Antarctica's climate either remained warm and habitable long enough for human civilization to establish itself after the dinosaurs went the way of, the dinosaurs, or perhaps it had a warmer cycle far more recently. Some folks even theorize that Antarctica, or at least parts of the continent, was ice-free until around 4000 BCE, which is around the time that we see early civilizations starting to develop in regions like Mesopotamia. However, diehards believe that the ancient civilization that built the pyramids in Antarctica was already flourishing long before the Mesopotamians built their ziggurats, a construction similar to a pyramid. Well, they'd have to be, because it's 1.3 kilometers tall. I really genuinely don't think we could build that today. I mean, of course we could. We could build it, but it would just be an insanely ridiculous and unnecessary undertaking. Dates for this supposed civilization range from 6,000 years ago to 12,000 years ago to millions of years ago, depending on who you ask. And can't we just go talk to the people with degrees, like the geologists that are a part of the system? The system. But let's not. Come on. One of the main proponents of the ancient civilization in Antarctica theory is Graham Hancock. Of course it is. A British author who started his career as an investigative journalist and who spent the last 30 years or so writing books on ancient civilizations and pretty much going against mainstream archaeology as much as possible. Needless to say, he's not very popular in academic circles, or in the circle of this podcast, but his books have sold millions of copies, so he's clearly popular wherever it's most financially advantageous. Yes! Hancock's theories of an advanced civilization in Antarctica are based on a few sound scientific ideas, such as the fact that Antarctica once had a temperate climate. However, he also based some of his ideas on the work of Dr. Charles Hapgood, Harvard-educated historian and explorer, whose theories are a bit on the unconventional side. And there I was saying we should rely on the people with degrees. And here's the Harvard guy with some unconventional opinions. Let's see what's up with him. According to Hapgood's theory, Antarctica had a temperate climate and was home to an advanced civilization not too long ago. The reason why they were able to survive in Antarctica is because the continent, or at least part of it, wasn't situated at the South Pole yet. In fact, the continent was closer to the equator. However, around 12,000 years ago, a sudden, and I'm guessing probably somewhat violent, displacement of the Earth's crust relocated Antarctica from its nice warm location down to the South Pole, where it is today. Hapgood believed this shift could have occurred in less than a week. Perhaps even in a day. Bruh, you went to Harvard, no? Don't... Really? I mean, it's again, but conspiracy theories... I've mentioned this before. My brother-in-law believes in some conspiracy theories, and he's smart. It's not about being dumb. It's just like there's something in your brain that makes yourself more open to these for whatever reason. In which case, the destruction would have been catastrophic. A natural disaster of that magnitude would have wiped out any civilization. In fact, most forms of life, if not all life. The layers of ice would have started building immediately, burying whatever remained deep under the ice and snow. The idea of a tectonic shift is sound. The Earth's crust floats on the mantle, so tectonic plates are always moving and colliding, but they do it very slowly, over thousands and millions of years, so this theory seems a bit implausible. You would need an impressive catalyst to speed up this process to a matter of weeks, never mind a single day. Yeah, it's just like, where'd Australia go? It just doesn't seem very real. Hancock claims that according to Flavio Barbiero in his book A Civilization Under the Ice, a book I can't find anywhere, this sudden shift from the equator to the South Pole was caused by a major impact event. Scientists have theorized that around 12,000 to 13,000 years ago, a giant asteroid hit the planet, leading to a sudden warm period. Very, very sudden. The ice sheets melted, dumping a lot of fresh water into the oceans, causing sea levels to rise around 400 feet. This in turn led to a sudden colder period known as the Younger Dryas period. Was it this impact that caused Antarctica to move over 1,000 miles in a day? In 1966, Hapgood published a book, Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, which included, among others, the Piri Reis map, a world map compiled by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis back in 1513 to further cement his theories. We've done a video about the Piri Reis map and how it was supposedly showing Antarctica, and it's just widely regarded as it was just an error. A correct error, but an error. Like, he didn't know it was there. That's what I'm trying to say. He just chanced it, and it happened to be.
Critics, on the other hand, attribute the supposed accuracy to fortunate guesswork, claiming that the map contains errors and distorted representations of coastlines.
The map was rediscovered by scholars working in the Topkapi Palace Library in 1929. And I say rediscovered, but I'm not entirely sure it was ever really lost. Regardless, the map is supposedly very accurate, depicting details that other maps of the time missed, like river inlets along the Brazilian coastline and the Caribbean islands. Apparently, the map also includes notes on the first encounters between the European explorers and the indigenous explored populations, but most significant is its depiction of a southern continent, which appears to be Antarctica. The map includes geological features like mountain ranges and valleys, found underneath the ice cap of Queen Maudland in Antarctica using seismological instruments many centuries later. Yeah, this is the bit where it was just... It's why... Unless I'm really mistaken, and I completely misremembered that video, but it was just a coincidence. And it was not even, it's not as bang on as people say. Anyway, the coastline is also devoid of ice, but in the 1500s, Antarctica looked very much like it does today, a frozen desert. Officially, Antarctica was first sighted by Europeans in 1820, so how could it appear on a map drawn in 1513? Well, Admiral Muhyiddin Piri, better known as Piri Reis, was a busy man. It's unlikely that he had time to sail all the way to Antarctica, map the coastline himself, and make it back home, only for history to forget about what would have been one of the most impressive sea journeys of the age. A far more likely scenario, according to Hancock, is that Reis used earlier maps, around 20 of them, to compile his own map. Whatever source maps Reis used have sadly been lost, but it seems that these original maps were remarkably accurate and must have been made by people with the navigational expertise to travel great distances and create very precise maps of their voyages. Interesting. I don't remember that at all. It was a long time ago that I made that video, but I don't remember that. Oh, maybe it was a thing. Let's find out where this goes. I don't know enough about this. I'll stop chatting. Since ancient scientists didn't have the equipment we have today, whoever drew the map must have seen Antarctica's coastline before it froze over. That's the only way to explain the level of accuracy. Of course, the only logical conclusion is that at least one of these map makers lived in the ancient equivalent of a comfortable apartment with a great ocean view within walking distance of all the amenities offered by the ancient civilization of Antarctica. The Piri Reis map also isn't the only map to show an accurate Antarctic coastline free of ice. The Orontius Phineas map, compiled in 1531 by French mathematician and cartographer Oronce Fine, also shows what appears to be Antarctica. However, on this map, Antarctica is in the wrong place. Of course, that only means the source map for this particular map was drawn before Antarctica moved to its current position at the South Pole and has nothing to do with human error, of course. Some theorists take this even further, claiming that some of the interior features of this southern continent found on the Orontius Phineas map, like mountain ranges, we only know of today thanks to satellite images, something that most definitely didn't exist in the 1500s, suggesting that, much like the Nazca Lines, whoever drew the map had the ability to see the planet from above. The plot thickens. No, you don't need to be able to see like making Nazca Lines, we don't need to have a helicopter to be able to see what we're doing. We can use paper and maths and figure it out. And people in the past, they were smarter than we give them credit for. However, if you really start digging into older maps, you'll make a rather astonishing discovery. These two maps aren't the only ones showing a southern continent. It was hypothesized at the time that there had to be a large landmass to the south to balance out the landmass in the north, so a lot of old maps indicate this hypothetical southern continent. Since it was just a theory, though, no one really knew where exactly this continent was supposed to be. As far as explanations go, that's really boring, so we're going with the far more unlikely but far more exciting theory that an ancient civilization was alive and well on a jungle continent drawing maps for future explorers to use in their maps. But what happened to this marvelous, definitely not frozen civilization? Well, Hancock believes that many of the older flood stories are not in fact just stories, but rather based on remembered history. We already mentioned the Younger Dryas period and rising sea levels. Rising sea levels would lead to floods. See where I'm going with this? Most cultures around the world have tales of a flood. In the Bible, Noah built an ark to ride out the flood. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, some ancient Egyptian texts, even Mesoamerican cultures like the Aztecs, they've got tale of a global flood destroying most of the planet and everyone who lives on it. And that brings us to, of course, Atlantis. If there's a DTU bingo, Decoding the Unknown bingo, I mean Atlantis, aliens, Graham Hancock, pyramids. We're really hitting them all today, aren't we? We haven't hit aliens yet, but I have no doubt that we will. According to some theories, the ancient city of Atlantis was in the southern hemisphere Atlantis, for those who didn't watch our fantastic video on Atlantis, was a city described in the works of the Greek philosopher Plato. As an allegory, wasn't it? Or just pure fiction? An ancient civilization whose hubris led to its destruction at the hands of some wrathful gods who leveled the city with an earthquake and then drowned it with a flood. Returning to the Younger Dryas period, when the sea levels rose, the ancient city, once thriving in the jungles of Antarctica, flooded. Finally, the continent moved into the position it's now in, thanks to the impact event that led to the Younger Dryas in the first place, and everything just froze over. This means that the ruins of this ancient civilization are still there, buried under miles of ice. If a mammoth could freeze, with food still in its mouth, perhaps a frozen Pompeii is still waiting to be found, buried deep in the layers of Antarctic ice. Hancock isn't saying that Antarctica is Atlantis. There are some who believe that, but Hancock isn't one of them. He simply believes that the stories of Atlantis might be based on an actual civilization that was destroyed by a flood. So, did everyone die after this period of flooding and flash freezing? Well, no. And we know this because of the pyramids. Took a while, but we're back to them. After this natural disaster of biblical proportions, the ancient Antarcticans dispersed around the globe, presumably using their advanced navigational skills and superior shipbuilding technology, making their way to other civilizations that were just getting started, like the ancient Mesopotamians, Sumerians, and Egyptians. Everywhere they settled, they shared their knowledge of how to build pyramids with their new friends and countrymen, making the pyramid in Antarctica the blueprint on which all other pyramids are based. Obviously, the timeline's a bit wonky here, since not all of these civilizations left the starting line on the same day, but let's not get bogged down by history. Anyway, this exodus of survivors explains the many similarities in ancient cultures around the world, and when it comes to astronomy and architecture, all this knowledge has the same point of origin. According to some Polynesian folktales, compiled into the book Out of Antarctica by French academic Robert Argaud, published in 2001, there are stories of Polynesian folk heroes who traveled to an unknown land. Isn't the reason, there's similarities between old cultures is because there's just certain, the similarities between all people. We like having a roof over our heads so we don't get rained on, so we're going to build houses. Me and my Duplo, building pyramids is just kind of like a natural thing to build for people. At least, that's what I think. The stories describe a strange land with white rocks that come out of the water, probably icebergs, and all manner of peculiar creatures that sound very much like seals and penguins. I mean, white rocks that come out of the water? What, bro's never seen ice before? He's gonna touch it and be like, that's real cold. That's a real cold rock right there. Could be ice, but I'm not sure. Could just be a white rock, a really cold white... What are you talking about? It's fucking ice. It seems that these tales are describing what we today know as Antarctica, and to the Polynesian people, this was the place where their ancestors originally came from. And before you ask, Rapa Iti, an island forming part of French Polynesia, is home to the Morongo Uta Pyramids. A bit of a puzzle to archaeologists and historians alike. The ancient Polynesians were excellent sailors, able to navigate vast distances. Did the Polynesian ancestors from the frozen desert teach their descendants the art of pyramid building and sailing? No, I don't think so. Now, if you don't think about it too hard, in fact, I recommend not thinking about it at all, this theory does make sense. The minute you start thinking about it, though, the theory has more plot holes than Swiss cheese. However, if this theory is correct, which it isn't, it would mean that there was an advanced civilization knocking around Antarctica back when it was lush and green, thousands of years before the human species even learned how to light a fire, never mind build a boat and figure out the first principles of cartography. And build a pyramid 1.3 kilometers high! Apparently, in 2002, a TV crew for a production company called Atlantis TV set out to find proof of this theory and visited Antarctica to investigate a massive archaeological dig site that was excavating something around 2 miles beneath the ice, according to rumor. 2 miles beneath the ice? No way! As is usually the case in these stories, the crew vanished without a trace. Oh, okay. Yeah, this paragraph starts with apparently. Navy rescuers later found their camp and equipment. Among the equipment, a videotape was recovered and shown to scientists at McMurdo Station. Apparently, the tape showed images of amazing ruins buried miles beneath the ice. It seemed that a secret military expedition, and by military I mean the US military of course, discovered an entire pyramid complex and decided to keep it to themselves. Atlantis TV tried to get their property back, even suing the military, Like, that's going to end well. But it seems like they lost, and whatever the TV crew found will likely never see the light of day. As for the company, they went out of business a few years later. I've not been able to verify any of this. I couldn't find any record of an archaeological expedition to Antarctica in 2002, and the only Atlantis TV I could find is a French production company that's still going strong. So I'm going to chalk this up to pure fiction, but who knows? Maybe the TV crew found the truth, and it was buried so deep that no trace of the crew, the production company, or whatever they found still remains. Yeah, it's 2 miles under the ice. Please. They're below the ice as much as that bloody pyramid is above it. Of course, not everyone believes the ancient civilization who built the pyramids in Antarctica has gone the way of the mammoth. Apparently they're still there, alive and kicking, either hiding in advanced complexes under the ice or working with world governments on secret projects, of course. If you think the theories up to now have been a bit wild, hold on to your tinfoil hats because it's going to get stranger. So far I've been like, they're not believable, but they're not insane. They're a little bit insane, but they're not truly insane. Operation Highjump. On August 26, 1946, Operation Highjump, also known as the United States Navy Arctic Development Program, departed for the South Pole, led by Admiral Richard Byrd. It was the largest expedition to Antarctica to date and included 13 ships, 33 aircraft, and 4,700 troops. Clearly, they expected trouble, and according to those in the know, they found it. But more about that later. The goal of the operation was more military than exploratory. They wanted to find ways to train and test personnel and equipment in the icy conditions, as well as evaluate the feasibility of establishing and maintaining bases in Antarctica, among other objectives. Admiral Byrd was a well-known figure at the time, the youngest man to ever make the rank of admiral. Oh no, we don't find out what age he did it. I'm really curious. And a celebrated polar explorer, an aviation pioneer. However, in certain circles, he's better known for his secret diary. Ooh. This secret diary only surfaced a few years after the admiral's death and has never been confirmed to be the real deal. But in this secret diary, he tells a fascinating tale. This diary is often used to prove the truth of the Hollow Earth theory, another one of the greats when it comes to conspiracies and mysteries. The Hollow Earth theory, if you haven't watched our fantastic video on the subject, posits that the Earth is in fact hollow. Yeah, it's not. It's not though, is it? It's all there in the name, really. However, not only is the Earth hollow, there's another advanced civilization inside the core of our planet, and the entrances to the Hollow Earth can be found at the North and South Poles. According to one whistleblower, only known as Brian, in the early 1980s, during a rescue mission transporting an injured scientist from Davis Station to McMurdo Station, the crew flew over a remote camp labeled Air Sampling Station. The area was marked as a no-fly zone, so off limits to planes, but there was a life on the line, so the navigator decided that a shortcut was necessary. As they flew over the air sampling station, the flight crew started having trouble with their instruments due to magnetic anomalies, and they were losing power. Sounds like the plot of Lost, doesn't it? Looking out the window, Brian saw a big hole in the ice. He described it as a huge entrance to a cave, but slanted and going down. There were a lot of tracks crisscrossing the area, some even leading down inside the hole, so apparently there were a lot of people sampling the air. Luckily, the crew made it back to McMurdo Station and the patient survived, but the crew found themselves in the commander's office where they were informed that they were not to tell anyone what they saw. In fact, they didn't see anything at all. Did Brian and his crew spot the entrance to the Hollow Earth? Even if this story's true, no. No, he didn't. He just saw a massive hole. Doesn't necessarily mean he goes to Hollow Earth. That'd be like looking at a mine and being a big strip mine, where they've dug it out. Oh, God, I bet the bottom of that. It's Hollow Earth, isn't it? You don't want to dig too deep. You'll touch that ancient civilization. You'll let the demons out. According to Byrd's diary, he had encounters with strange beings communicating telepathically inside the Earth. And while they weren't fans of nuclear weapons, their stance on pyramid building, bit unclear. However, what's of more importance to us is the jungle. While flying across the continent, Byrd claimed to have spotted a lush green jungle, complete with wildlife, waterfalls, and whatever else you'd expect to find in a lush green jungle somewhere in the heart of the Antarctic continent. Honestly, mate, he thinks people are communicating from inside the Earth telepathically, and that you saw a jungle in Antarctica. You need to get your head checked because that's not healthy. That's not healthy, dude. A vibrant green jungle teeming with wildlife definitely sounds like something that could sustain human life, The idea of a green patch anywhere on the Antarctic continent might sound ridiculous to you and me, but one theory suggests that geothermal phenomena, in other words, things like hot springs and volcanic flows, could create a microclimate in valleys protected from the icy conditions that plague the rest of the continent. As much as I want to believe that, because it would be really, really cool, I don't think that's true, because then you could go to like Antarctica and just chill out in one of these little like forests in Antarctica. I think that'd be really cool. And I think a lot of other people would find that really cool. So it would be exploited the shit out of as a tourist destination. So I don't think it's real. These microclimates could have supported an ancient civilization at some point. Of course, some argue that not only do these pockets exist, that there are still advanced humans, or at the very least advanced beings, living in these pockets. If you're like me and wondering why the ever-vigilant seekers of truth who spend hours on Google Earth looking for anomalies haven't spotted a bright green jungle in the white waste of Antarctica, that's easily explained. Certain areas of Antarctica are blurred out in Google Earth images, and Antarctica has a whole lot of no-fly zones. So other than Admiral Byrd, no pilot or flight crew has ever reported spotting a jungle anywhere on the continent. Is our pocket of pyramid builders hidden behind a blurred image in a no-fly zone? If not in a blurry no-fly zone, perhaps our pyramid builders can be found in a lake. In 2013, scientists from the University of California, Berkeley, discovered an enormous underground lake about the size of Lake Erie, 2,500 meters beneath the layers of Antarctic ice, which could possibly support life. Yeah, but when we talk, this is fascinating, and I think it's really cool because they could drill down into that lake, potentially discover life that's never been seen before, and potentially life that evolved completely separate from like modern life on Earth, which is really cool, but not. Like, there's not going to be like dolphins down there or something. There's going to be like weird fish and bacteria, if anything. Probably something. Life finds a way.
That a group composed entirely of female animals will breed?
No, I'm simply saying that life finds a way.
Some believe that the lake itself could be a home to a race of ancient people that have been living down there for centuries, protected from the harsh Antarctic climate. Honestly, pyramid building mermaids in Antarctica was not on my bingo card when I started writing this script, but oh, here we are. However, if that sounds ridiculous, it does. The lake could be the gateway to an underground world, home to a variety of strange creatures, perhaps even intelligent life. However, whether that intelligent life originated on this planet is a whole different question. I warned things were about to get stranger, but as we say in South Africa, hold my beer because we're not done yet. Aliens in Antarctica, yes! While some are leaning toward an ancient civilization being behind the pyramids, others believe that ancient humans couldn't have built the pyramids. Any pyramid, I mean, pick one. They had outside help. So the ancient civilization that flourished in Antarctica when it had a more temperate climate did so with the help of little green men or tall grey men or reptilian men or whatever you think aliens look like. It's up to you. Personally, I favor whatever Harry Vanderspiegel is supposed to be in Resident Alien. Oh, I saw that. I think I that's one of those shows I started watching. Is that the main character guy that I started watching? And then I just kind of dropped off. I was enjoying it, but I just kind of dropped off. These otherworldly visitors help the ancient peoples develop advanced technologies which they use to build impressive structures and cities, and of course pyramids. Apparently in his dialogues, Plato basically tells us that Atlantis was an extraterrestrial colony. Clearly I have to go and read the dialogues again because I completely missed that detail the first time around. You missed it because it ain't there. And this brings us back to Operation Highjump, with its complement of 13 ships, 33 aircraft, and 4,700 troops, supposedly heading to Antarctica for exploration. It may come as no surprise to you that this was just a cover. The real objective of the operation was to investigate alien encounters and find advanced alien technologies hidden beneath the icy wastes. Admiral Byrd himself once said that Antarctica was the center of the new development of the world. Personally, I think he was referring to scientific endeavors, but apparently I'm completely wrong. He was actually referring to the discovery of advanced technology, either alien or ancient, depending on which theory you favor. However, things went sideways and the expedition returned 9 months later after fighting a battle in Antarctica, probably between remnants of the Third Reich. Where in Antarctica, of course, there are going to be Nazis and some extraterrestrials, though it's unclear if there was a three-way battle or whether the aliens were allied with the Nazis or the Americans. I'm fairly sure that even an alien threat couldn't convince the Americans and the Nazis to fight together. Regardless of who was fighting who, military personnel on the ground, though no names are ever mentioned, told stories of craft coming out of the water and attacking them, and these flying saucers apparently gave the American forces a run for their money. Did this ever happen? Was there an expedition at all? I kind of was like, wait, was there? Just a normal expedition? I feel like I would know about that, like 4,700 people? That's a huge expedition. Where exactly these stories came from is a little vague. However, any story making Americans look bad, especially against flying saucers, could probably be traced back to the Soviets. We're so deep in conspiracy theories at this point, I feel like we'd be failing if we didn't insert one of our own. Apparently, in March 1947, Byrd even reported that there was a new enemy that they had discovered that could fly from one pole to the other in an instant. I've researched Admiral Byrd pretty thoroughly, and I completely missed that quote as well. It seems that I'm not a very good researcher. According to some reports, Admiral Byrd was hospitalized soon after he said this and was told to never do an interview again. He finally passed away in 1957 peacefully at home from a heart ailment, or so they say. He was taken out by the Soviets and the aliens and the ancient people living with mermaids in that lake under the ice. All the proof of these ancient extraterrestrial cities, including eyewitness accounts from military personnel who claim to have seen unusual structures and relics uncovered during Operation Highjump, has been classified and tucked away in secret warehouses by the US government to keep the truth of the wonders of Antarctica and the ancient world from the rest of us. Apparently, the government decided that these discoveries were too disruptive or could lead to a large-scale panic should it ever become known to the general public. Of course, being able to study these artifacts and reverse engineer them would give the US military a great advantage. So, keeping it out of the hands of the Russians, for example, was another important reason for keeping it all secret. Besides, the government already built secret warehouses for all the artifacts Indiana Jones kept bringing home, so they had the space. Might as well just use it, I suppose. Apparently, tales of aliens in Antarctica died down a little bit after the 1950s, but in the last 10 years or so, multiple whistleblowers have stepped forward with their own stories about weird things happening on our southern continent. In 2018, a man claiming to be a retired Navy SEAL came forward with an incredible tale of entering an ancient structure in August 2003 while on a mission to recover a certain scientist and his work. Bro, did you watch a movie and think that there would be a cool story to tell from the first person? Of course, we don't know the man's true identity, but his story was imaginative and very detailed. I'm sure his high school English teacher is very proud. The team came across an octagonal structure protruding from the ice. The doors were thick and sturdy, but you could push them open with one finger. The temperature inside the building was warmer than outside, and a lime green light illuminated the ceiling, walls, and floor, though they couldn't tell where it was coming from. The walls were covered in what appeared to be hieroglyphics of a sort, but nothing like the hieroglyphics he'd ever seen. I'm not sure how much training Navy SEALs get in hieroglyphics, but perhaps he's a history nut. Now, this is obviously not a pyramid, but apparently Antarctica was prime real estate for aliens, and if stories are to be believed, there are abandoned ancient structures or alien structures or both all over the continent. So it's really no surprise that the aliens or ancients or ancient aliens built pyramids. Of course they did. Many years later, our man Brian again, yes, just Brian, went out on another rescue mission to pick up scientists from a research station on Mary Byrd Land. The researchers had vanished and a rescue team was sent to investigate the disappearance, and they reported that there were no signs of a struggle. The scientists were simply gone. A few days later, they suddenly reappeared, calling McMurdo and asking for an immediate pickup. They wanted to get out of there, and they wanted to get out now. The flight back to McMurdo was 2 hours long, and in those 2 hours, none of the scientists said a word. Upon arrival, this is like a creepypasta. This reads like a creepypasta. Upon arrival at McMurdo, the scientists' equipment was stored and later transferred to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. Now, apparently, if you're up to date with your UFO lore, this is where recovered craft is packed off to. I thought that was Area 51, but clearly my UFO knowledge is a bit out of date. Apparently, this was also the HQ for Project Blue Book, the Air Force UFO investigation unit, which found nothing. And I know it's the Air Force doing it, so people are going to be like, you believe that, Simon? And be like, yeah, I actually do. After this most peculiar and silent trip, the rescue crew was called into the commander's office and once again informed by two men wearing plain clothes, freshly arrived from Washington, D.C., that they would never speak of this incident again. In fact, none of it ever even happened. So clearly, there is a hidden UFO base in Antarctica, and these extraterrestrials may or may not be the original builders of the pyramids. But why would you want to build a pyramid in Antarctica? As we've seen, you get pyramids everywhere, even Polynesia, and according to one theory, the Antarctic pyramid is just one node of a global network of pyramids. The triangular structure of the pyramid is some kind of power generator. We've touched on this before. And this network of pyramids were designed to transmit huge amounts of energy wirelessly across the globe. All this generator power doesn't seem to be of much use to us lowly commoners, Especially in South Africa, where we've got so many power outages, there's an official name and a schedule that you can check. But ancient ships, presumably from the ancient advanced civilizations or extraterrestrial craft powered by superior technology, could use this sea of wireless energy to navigate around the planet. Of course, to cover the whole planet with this blanket of wireless energy, there would have to be some pyramids in Antarctica. Makes perfect sense, I suppose. Others, a little bit of circular logic there, guys. Others have claimed that the pyramids were built as launching pads for alien spaceships. I never realized Stargate SG-1 was a documentary. Disappointing. I love Stargate SG-1. That show, I must have been a teenager. Yeah, I was enjoying that as a teenager, and I recently rewatched the whole thing. It's aged all right. It's aged all right. It looks a bit dated sometimes, but it's a fun story. What's going on in Antarctica? Pyramids aren't the only hint that something was going on back in the early days of the Antarctic continent. Seismic surveys meant to map the bedrock of the continent beneath all the layers of ice have revealed features that could possibly have been man-made, or at the very least altered by humans or some kind of beings, like a uniform plateau, possibly to support buildings or other structures. Aliens, ancient civilizations, Nazis? Who built the pyramids? When did they build them and why? It seems that we've got many unanswered questions, but I fear we're missing the most important question of all of them. Are there actually any pyramids in Antarctica to begin with? It really took a while answering today's episode, didn't we? But I had a fun time. According to geologists, the answer to this is a resounding no. These pyramids aren't actually pyramids. They're mountains, the result of an extraordinary but still very natural process of weathering and erosion. If you pay attention, you'll notice that the pyramid shape is not very complicated, so it does show up in nature, especially when it comes to mountains. A four-faced pyramid peak, such as the one found in Antarctica, is called a glacial horn, or a Matterhorn, named after the Matterhorn in the Alps, which is quite possibly the best-known example of this kind of mountain. Most mountains are made up of various different types of rock, which is why erosion might be more pronounced on one or two sides, depending on the direction of the prevailing wind, rain, and type of rock. The peak in Antarctica, the mountain that would win the prize for the best Giza pyramid impersonation of the century, eroded away on all sides at a similar rate, suggesting that the mountain mostly consists of one type of rock and is experiencing similar wind conditions from all sides, which is not unexpected in Antarctica. Of course, these types of mountains usually only have two sides, so a four-sided horn is a little unusual, but it's definitely not impossible. The unnamed mountain may have gained its fame with its discovery on Google Earth, but it wasn't exactly a secret or new feature suddenly exposed out of the ice. In fact, there are so many pyramidal-shaped mountain peaks in Antarctica that it seems researchers are no longer bothering to name them. We have the Pyramids, a peak named by the British Antarctic Expedition of 1910 to 1913, Another pyramid can be found near the head of Hope Bay on the Antarctic Peninsula, so named by the Swedish Antarctic Expedition of 1901 to 1904. Pyramid mountain can be found in the Quatermain Mountains, while another pyramid mountain lies along the Ferrar Glacier, and Mount Pyramid can be found in the Churchill Mountains. Many photos of Antarctica often show scientists hard at work, or hikers, probably scientists on their day off, hiking through the icy landscape with a pyramid-shaped mountain in the background. But no one in the photo seems to be interested in them. Clearly, there are more interesting things going on in Antarctica than pyramid-shaped mountains. Yeah, because they're just mountains. Conclusion. Most mysteries we decode on this channel require some sort of suspense of disbelief in order to seem plausible. In this instance, not only did we have to suspend disbelief, all measure of rational thinking got tossed out of the window of a fast-moving freight train somewhere in Siberia, and is now buried so deep underneath the ice it will never be found again, except by magical ice dolphins. Antarctica was never near the equator, and it certainly didn't break the tectonic plate record moving all the way to the South Pole. In a day. The Antarctic continent has always been pretty much where it is now. It was the Earth around it that warmed and cooled. In order for ancient civilization to thrive in Antarctica, they would have had to exist 100 million years ago, which is highly unlikely. The first hominids only arrived on the scene around 2 million years ago, and were nowhere near sophisticated enough to build pyramids or engage in vast ocean voyages mapping unknown continents. As for the incredible discovery of pyramids in 2012 and again in 2016, it might have been news to the rest of the world, but scientists have been aware of the existence of these pyramid-shaped mountains for over 100 years. And if there was any chance that they were anything other than mountains shaped by millions of years of erosion, someone would have taken a closer look by now. Tales of governments hiding the existence of ancient civilizations, alien technologies, and pyramid complexes buried beneath the ice seems highly improbable. Research in Antarctica is tightly regulated by the Antarctic Treaty, so it's unlikely that anyone would be able to hide anything for that length of time. The logistics involved and the cooperation needed between governments in order to make sure that every researcher working in Antarctica either keeps their mouth shut about what's going on down there or never stumbles across anything they're not supposed to seems much too complex to have been maintained for over 100 years. Yeah, the longer you go from an event, the more likely it is that information is going to come out, and it's been 100 years, so I think it's pretty unlikely. Sadly, it seems that Tales of Pyramids in Antarctica is simply a case of much ado about nothing. In fact, the Pyramids in Antarctica story feels like a greatest hits compilation. It seems that someone made a list of all the most popular and enduring conspiracy theories over the last couple of decades and built one conspiracy theory combining elements of all of their favorites. If anybody feels like a game of Decoding the Unknown bingo, yeah, I really did feel like it would be appropriate for this. The mysteries covered by this one conspiracy include Atlantis, a global flood, the Hollow Earth theory, the Piri race map, advanced ancient civilizations, alien visitations, Nazis in Antarctica, reptilians manipulating and shaping the direction of world events, the New World Order, and if you dig deep enough, even the Knights Templar and the Ark of the Covenant gets a special mention. Of course, if I wrote the story, I would have tossed in the Holy Grail and at least one lost treasure for good measure, but I suppose you can't have it all.
And I'd definitely throw in something about the Men in Black, or
just why not? Just throw it all in. And that's where we end today's episode. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. I'll see you next time.